Beautiful. It's up and ready. Where you go.
Thank you very much. Let's minimise this. So thank you for the opportunity to present here today. The best bit about going a few presentations later in the session is you all know what a TRE is, or a Trusted Research Environment, or Secure Research Environment as we call them. The worst part about going now is you know everything. And I'd like to thank all the presenters today that presented so far. They have pretty much done a fantastic job in telling you what they are, what they do, and I'm pretty much going to regurgitate a lot of the same information, so I do apologise for that. So a bit about myself. So I'm the Technical Manager in the CVDL, Centre for Victorian Data Linkage. So the Centre for Victorian Data Linkage is a unit within the Department of Health in Victoria, and we primarily do data linkage, which links person-centred episode records together to create a integrated data asset or integrated data resource that contains content for a wide range or for the Victorian population. From that data set, we create subsets of that data that we push into VALT. That data set's quite large now. It has over 40 data sets and over about I think it's 500 million records in there at the moment, and about 30,000 variables from health and human services. It's quite extensive. We are the Victorian node of the Population Health Research Network, and we do receive some increased funding as well. We've also been accredited as a National Integrating Authority back in 2018, and we have just submitted our re-accreditation now, so waiting to hear back on that. So today I'm here to talk about VALT. Oh, apologies. There's some of the data sets. I think there was an earlier question about data sets that each of us link. That's just a sample of what we have in our integrated data resource. So VALT, this is our journey through, I guess, the years. So back in 2017, I think, as Roger said, we used to provide data physically to researchers, electronically, USB key. We give that data so they would actually house it on their data systems. And back then we thought there's a better way to do this, a more secure way. And I guess we followed in the footsteps of Shaw. So thank you, Matthew, and your predecessors. I think that was the model that a lot of us looked at to say that this can be done that way. So in 2018, we developed a proof of concept. And in that same year, we conducted a beta test to see if what we were doing was viable in the Microsoft Azure stack. There was a successful test, and then in 2019, we actually fully developed and designed that system. We built it, and in 2020, we went live, and all of the data sets, or all of our subsets of data that come from our integrated data resource for researchers go into VALT now. We also send out data to other secure research environments, trusted research environments, such as Shaw. VALT has gone pretty well over the years. Back in 2023, we made some enhancements to make it a bit more usable. We always have an eye on security, but we always, iterate, and we want to make this as easy as possible for researchers to use, access. So in 2025, we've got about 200 research projects and about 500 users. So it's getting much bigger, and it's getting to the point we probably need a few more staff on there. I've seen the staffing numbers in a few other jurisdictions, and hopefully my colleagues haven't seen that yet. We also utilise the 5 safes in Victoria, in CVDL. So safe people, safe projects, safe settings, safe data and safe outputs, that we've mentioned before. Obviously, VALT goes towards the safe settings, but through our governance, we have the verify safe people and safe projects through ethics, and I'll talk a bit more about that in the governance section. We put the identified unit record data into VALT, so no personal identifiable information is involved, so this safe data. There are projects where we do minimise it, but that's sort of, I guess, lessening over the years, where people are finding that the VALT security is safe enough that you don't need to have high scores across all the 5 dimensions. And the safe outputs, as much as been said today, we have sort of a curated gateway or a vetting process before we take any data out of VALT. So no unit record data comes out of VALT. It would be tables and graphs, but they're verified and checked before they're released. I guess a bit about how we built VALT. So first and foremost, we looked at the securities. We wanted to work within the 5 safes. As I mentioned, we were putting safe data in there. We wanted to verify the outputs. So first off is we wanted to air gap the system, and that's not overly possible to have a fully air gap system. I think Louisa made the point is we use whitelisting as well. There are certain parts of the internet that you do need to access. I guess what we're trying to do in this day and age is have all of our devices and everything interconnected. And what VALT tries to do is unwind a lot of that. We wanted to provide enough functionality in there out to the internet while keeping it secure. Things like MFA needs the ability to go out to the internet or out to Microsoft servers and verify, that you are who you are. And if we block the internet, that would no longer work. So I guess on top of those things, while we have limited internet access, we've blocked some of the features within the desktop itself. So we blocked out the command line prompt and stopped people getting access to the registry and being able to reconfigure the VM and actually prevent that data loss out of that environment. So we use Microsoft Azure, and that's been IRAP certified. We have access controls. So role-based access controls, you need to be in our Azure Active Directory and attached to a security group with MFA, and each team project gets a separate VM isolated from every other VM. And within our data, we have different person keys. So as Matt explained a bit earlier, you can't actually join 2 sets of data together, even if you're able to access both. A little bit about security controls. So we started with this VALT concept. That was in our Microsoft Azure data center, which is in the Australian borders. No data leaves our Australian borders. Built in the Australia Southeast data center. So starting with the user. So we've got governance around them. We get them to sign a deed of confidentiality. They're verified as a person, a researcher, government user. They have an ethics submission attached to them. Then we look at their project. Is this a project? Have the data custodians approved it? If you've got ethics clearance, then we give the user a set of credentials, so username and password, and we've onboarded them to our Active Directory. On top of that, we have multi-factor authentication using Microsoft Authenticator. You then have to be added to a security group that exists within our Microsoft Azure Active Directory. There's an isolated workspace, so you get a VM with a subset of your data for you and your team to use. We've minimized the internet connectivity. As I said, we've whitelisted some sites for functionality, and that represents pretty much the VALT. And I guess in terms of usability, we wanted to not only make the VALT secure, we wanted to make it usable. So we picked Microsoft Azure. I guess 1, the department's already heading down that road, but 2, it's arguably probably the most ubiquitous platform in the world. That everyone's seen a Microsoft desktop, even if you hate Microsoft, if you've used a Microsoft Windows-based desktop before, and our VMs look exactly the same. We've got a wide variety of tool sets. So we've got SQL, Office, R, Python, Stata, Power BI. This was really important to aid those multidisciplinary teams that have their preferred language they'd like to work in. And so we wanted to centralize the data, and we do that by putting that in a SQL database so that we can have those applications connect to a centralized data repository via ODBC connections, and then they can work together in their favorite programming language or statistical package. As I said, it's easy to use, being a Microsoft desktop, and it's scalable. I think Louisa also mentioned that Microsoft Azure is a public cloud. We're able to scale up CPU and RAM very quickly, depending on the research requirements. So we start low and we can actually ramp that up very quickly.
Mark, just 2 more minutes.
Great. So our governance, we have an application. So researchers will fill in an application and submit that to us. We'll go through ethics. We develop a technical specification documenting the variables that are needed. We get data custodian approval. They sign a deed of confidentiality, and then we provision the data into VALT. Some costs. VALT build so far has probably cost about $500,000, 500,000 K, and it's about $1 million to operate with the number of projects we've got in there. Some, varying from a very simple VM to very, very complex virtual machines. There's a list. Our VALT costs are available on the internet, and we have 3 staff that manage that environment. Challenges and issues, administration. So the output review, user support, and cost recovery are very challenging. They're very different, but we definitely want to give that support to users. Security, very complicated and ever-evolving landscape, so we've always got an eye on it and actually need to adapt and change to those challenges. And usability, there's more and more packages and people that have preference on, so we actually want to try and facilitate that. Last slide, I think, is what's next. So we're looking at sort of automation of our data selection by the user and automating that process all the way to the VALT itself. We want to add some geospatial tools, leverage data bricks to actually see if we can enhance and build out some more capability and continue doing security review and testing. That's it. Thank you very much. There's a couple of links to contact us, and happy to take any questions.
Fantastic, Mark. Thank you so much. It's interesting, the similarities and differences between what we've heard. Anyone got a question for Mark? Yeah, we've got one at the back and then one here, and that's it.
Hi, this is Emmanuel from Carlin and from the unis. I've worked in different environments, VALT, Sure, etc. But one of the things that I have noticed with VALT is they've got a set of, or with CVDL is they've got a set of derived variables that come from multiple data sets, which then they make available to the researchers without, and I believe there's a process by which it can happen without going to each of the data custodians. And yep. I'm just curious for Mark to tell us a little bit about that, because that would be very useful for us going forward here in South Australia, where we don't need to go to every single, say for instance, if you're interested in mental health, you don't need to go to every data custodian to get information. No, but if there are derived variables and how that works within CVDL and VALT.
Yeah, so our content team do a lot of work around that value add space in our integrated data resource. So smashing together 40 data sets is great, but the usability becomes a lot less. So our value add is to look at those things. We record date of birth, for instance, in multiple collections, and there can be respondent error, data entry error in those things. We have the ability to look across 40 different data sets and actually go, well, the most common birth date was this, even though the birth date they recorded in the data set that you want to look at has it recorded as something different. So you can use the source, but you can actually use one that we actually put some business logic behind. And we do that for a number of data sets, another data variables like country of birth, sex, gender, etc. Just to try to have that experience to the user, so you can quickly get analysis done rather than sort of altering format types and the way they're recorded as strings and numerics. I guess what we've done there is we went to the custodians, and we've got a connection with all of them because they actually contribute the data, and said that that derived variable isn't any more revealing than any other data set. It's using your data point as a point of reference in our business logic, but it doesn't reveal your data set or any more about your individual than anything else. So I guess the data custodians actually got on board with that and said, well, that actually isn't really our data. It's a derivation using our data point, but it's not our data. So they didn't need the same scrutiny to approve every project using that data set, which I think was great from the data custodians, and they've really evolved over the years.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. It's Sandra Patterson from SANT Data Link here. Most of our projects, the researchers want to bring in their own cohort data set as well, and obviously that brings it with other control issues and de-identification. Is that something they do inside the VALT, or do you then push it out to another TRE where they can put their data in?
So we do cohort projects within CVDL. So we get cohort projects that come through our linkage team. They will link it with the person keys, and then it's de-identified and put in there as a collection with our content team. Is that what you're meaning? Like survey cohorts, etc.?
Yeah, so you're controlling the import into the vault, not the researcher themselves, though.
Correct. That's correct.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we might wrap that one, but thanks, Mark, so much for your time, and yeah, great stuff.